But our supply chains are a critical success factor. And in our humanitarian operations, supply chain amounts to 75% of the total response cost of any operations. And a figure that underscores the strategic importance of supply chain and procurement in our sector. However, far too often procurement is seen as a support function, and it actually should be seen as a strategic and critical component of humanitarian operations. And therefore, I'd like to reflect on Mary B. Anderson's The Principle of Do No Harm, which was a book that was released in 1999. And I think this ethos is still very relevant, and we should actually start applying that to our funding allocations as well. And for those that haven't read the book, it's a principle that was an attempt for the Humanitarian Aid and Development Corporation to monitor the intended and unintended consequences our aid efforts have on contributing to instability and violence. But while this principle was focusing on war and peace, I think we should look at it again as a principle towards our unintended consequences regarding our sustainability effort. And I think we should argue there on what we buy and what we procure in the first place. So back to procurement. The role of procurement is vital if we were to achieve our SDGs. For example, if we're talking about SDG 5, promoting gender equality, we can adopt policies that we are aiming for a certain percentage to empower women-owned businesses through our procurement efforts. Likewise on SDG 13 and 17, climate action and sustainable development. If we are integrating sustainability criteria to our procurement practices, for example, at product level, adding repairability or recyclability to our products, we can actually significantly reduce our environmental impact. I think a project that we did jointly with Innovation Norway and IOM on the solar lanterns, if you add repairability to your solar lanterns you're procuring, you're actually procuring more long-term impact and also something that can be repaired, which is far more sustainable than buying an irreparable solar lantern. And if we don't add that to our technical specifications, we won't get what we don't ask for. And I think the humanitarian sector, unlike the private sector, we carry a mission beyond profit. It's about maximizing our impact. I wouldn't say that we don't have a mission, but our profit is impact. And I think procurement stands as a crucial gateway in realizing this mission. And realizing it's 75% of our entire humanitarian budget, it really signifies the biggest component we're having there. And there's various ways we can implement this into our policies. So from policy level, sustainable procurement is a strategic and at management level, from technical specifications from all the sustainability experts, but also at supply chain and in supplier assessment, which is the responsibility of our procurement colleagues here. And for example, if we make it a no-brainer that our equipment is repairable, I think we can already amount to a really huge impact. And if we embrace sustainable procurement practices, we can actually unlock an untapped potential, the 75%, to contribute to more solid impact towards our SDGs. And I think that is the challenge we have at hand here. I hope I made you very excited about the potential impact to green our sector, and I'd like to hand over back to Teresa.
Thank you, Claire. Thanks for highlighting the importance of procurement to greening our response and for the potential that we have and that we can unlock in enhancing our impact when we look at procurement. So thank you. Now I'd like to invite 3 of our private sector colleagues to, I think you already have your cameras on, but to join me in a virtual panel. This is Lorena Munoz Carmona. She's the Sustainability and Partnership Manager at Bright Products. Vegard Landén, he's the Operations Manager from Lardal Global Health. And Deepak Goel, who's the Managing Director of Gitanjali Woolens. So thank you for joining us here today. We look forward to hearing your insights as actors and suppliers from the private sector to humanitarian response. So first, I'd like to give you the word to introduce yourself and your company. So let us start with you, Deepak. Who is Gitanjali Textiles, and what kind of solutions can you provide to humanitarian response?
Good morning, everybody. Hi, my name is Deepak from Gitanjali Woolens. We're based out of India. We are manufacturing recycled wool blankets for the humanitarian sector, made entirely 100% from post-consumer textile waste, which was going to landfill. So that's a brief on what we do.
Exactly. Thank you. The word over to you, Vegard. Could you tell us a little bit about the solutions that Lærdal Global Health provides to humanitarian response?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So Lærdal Global Health is a Norwegian-based non-for-profit company, and we focus on helping save lives of newborn and mothers in low and medium resource settings. And we provide products like anatomical training models, like newborn simulators, maternal simulators, breastfeeding simulators, as well as medical devices, educational materials, and digital solutions as well. And we work with many partners in the humanitarian sector, as well as UN partners. So that's a brief about what we do in Lærdal Global Health.
Great, thank you. And Lorena, how about Bright Products? What kind of solutions do you provide to humanitarian response?
Hi, good morning to everyone. Well, we are also a Norwegian-based company, and we specialize in portable solar energy solutions for those who don't have access to the grid. But this is just a very complicated way of saying we provide or produce solar lamps that have charging capabilities, and that we specialize in the humanitarian sector especially. And now we're also expanding a little bit into the e-waste management and repair. We are the other partner that Claire was mentioning on this repair project with IOM. So that's what we've been doing.
Great, thank you. Maybe we could start with you, Lorena. Would you say in general, are you able to provide your best and greenest solutions to humanitarian organizations?
That's a bit tricky. So it's a yes, but answer, I would say. I mean, we've been providing our solutions over the last 10 years, and I think we keep working on consistently improving them over time, like we're not settling, but that definitely comes at a cost, and there's several challenges. So the first one would be like there's very rigid, sometimes tendering processes with fixed technical specifications or requirements, where our lamps that we know are the best solution for that specific context or in terms of sustainability might not match these very specific or rigid technical specs. I think we're also seeing like a mismatch between the global framework agreements that some humanitarian organizations have and then the local procurement processes, because sometimes there's no knowledge at the local level that a global framework exists, or we have been having discussions at headquarter level about what is the best solution, and we seem to have reached an agreement, but then that hasn't fully like trickled down to the local or what is being procured locally in terms of what is the best product. And then for a small company like us, this means that we have to make some choices, and we have to decide between, are we sticking to what we think it's our best, greenest solution and therefore missing a business opportunity, or are we adjusting our product to fit some specs that we know are not the best ones, and perhaps gain that business opportunity and the money that comes with it, because we are a for-profit company at the end of the day, even if we have a social purpose. But I mean, we're sticking to our horses. I am hoping is the best way to go. I really believe it is. So we are sticking and saying this is the best that we can offer you. We know that this is the most sustainable option, and that means that we are definitely losing some business here. But I think in the overall picture, yeah, we're going to stick to our horses in general.
Yeah, does this sound familiar to you, Vegard? What is Lærdal's sort of experience in trying to offer the best and greenest solutions to humanitarian responders?
You know what? I was nodding all the time when Lorena was speaking, because it's exactly the same that we feel here in Lærdal Global Health. First of all, let me say thank you to all of you who work with the humanitarian organizations, because as a non-for-profit company, we only make impact if our products reaches those who need it the most. So we're 100% depending on working with organizations like yourself. What we also find challenging is indeed the quite locked specifications. So we work with very innovative solutions, and very often what we see is that you maybe receive a tender, and the specifications will often be like a copy paste of the tender that was done before that and the tender that was before that. So it's often difficult for us to have a forum where we can promote new solutions, new tools, which is not always matching the specifications of the products that's been used in the past. So that is probably our biggest challenge when it comes to working with humanitarian organizations and getting our products into the catalogs and into the tenders, is that we face very locked specifications and would like to have more of a dialogue, so we could have more of a chance of presenting what we have been working on since the last tender. So maybe we can also help impact and ensure that the humanitarian organizations are aware of what the new solutions on the market is.
Thank you. How about you, Deepak? And does the experience from these two companies also resonate with experiences that you have in your company?
So yes, definitely, we may be suppliers of different products in different categories, but I think we all face the same challenges pretty much. So what I would like to add over here is that, well, our experience is quite a lot of difference from Lorena's and Vegard's. We were supplying to United Nations and the entire ecosystem along with it, blankets which were made from 100% recycled materials till about 2010. They then shifted to an alternative fossil fuel based polyester product, which is not sustainable at all. And for the last 7 years, we have been, sending mails to people in the top positions, trying to get them to change their procurement policy to shift from a non-sustainable fossil fuel-based product to a 100% recycled product. So those have been challenges. There have been a lot of challenges. That being said, you also asked that, are we today able to offer our greenest solution to the humanitarian organizations? So again, for that, I would say yes and no. Yes and no. Why? Because as of today, I can definitely offer my greenest solution today. But we need to constantly keep innovating and, innovating and creating new products. But innovation can only come when we get money from selling our products today. Because if we don't have the money, we cannot afford to innovate anything. We cannot afford any R&D. We cannot afford to keep people. So that's going to definitely kill innovation. So if I say today, yes, I am sure I can give the greenest possible solution today. But tomorrow that could be another solution, which will only come with innovation and R&D. And that only comes when you have constant business from the entire humanitarian system.
Thank you. I know some of you have sort of concrete examples, and I don't know if you have a concrete example that you can anonymize and sort of share, because it helps others understand the concrete sort of challenges that you're facing. Vegard, you told me about an innovation you had, and it took a number of years before you were actually able to get it into the system. Could you share a little bit about sort of that process and why it took so long?
Exactly. So I have one example, and I'm not sure if you're able to see my screen, but the example is the horizontal versus the upright resuscitators that we provide. So historically, so this is a resuscitator, and you use it to resuscitate the baby. And the traditional solution is a vertical, a horizontal resuscitator, handheld, where you need two hands. You use one hand to sort of apply pressure towards the baby's mouth and nose, and use the other hand to squeeze the bag. So that is the traditional solution. And what we have been working on in Local Global Health, this is one example of the innovations that we have developed, is an upright resuscitator where all of the pressure you add goes in the direction that you're working in. So you only need one hand to be operating the device, which means that in a low resource setting, where you don't have more hands than what you need, then you free up a hand which you can use to do other things and take care of the baby. So this is one example of an innovation which on paper is not too large. So the device is very similar to the traditional solution. However, back to the challenge of locked specifications, then what we often see is that the specification says it has to be a horizontal solution, right? So because that's what's always been used. It's always been a horizontal device. So automatically, this one does not qualify for a lot of tenders, even if we strongly believe that this is a better innovative solution. So that's issue one with challenge one with this device. As you said, we've now after 8 years been able to get it into the UN catalogs as well as some NGO catalogs, and we're selling thousands of it now to for example, UNICEF and UNFPA, but it's been a real struggle because of the specifications that's been used being so rigid. The other thing I would like to highlight with this example is that this is a multi-use product. So we always so the way we look at innovation and the way that we look on green solutions is that we want to make high quality solutions that last for many years. And what we often see in tenders is that it's either not specified or it's specified that one-time solutions are either preferred, or when it's not specified, which is most of the case, then the challenge with a product like this is that it costs more to the unit cost of a product like this is higher than a single-use product, right? Because the quality costs a bit more to produce. So what we also struggle with this kind of device is that even if you can use this one for many years, the unit cost is higher. So if the only selection criteria other than the specifications is price, unit cost, then we struggle with solutions like this to get them into the catalog, because the cost per use is much lower. So it's definitely, in terms of a lifetime cost, much lower, and in terms of lifetime emissions, much lower. But in a bid process where the criteria is unit cost, then it can be difficult to be competitive with this kind of multi-use products. So that is the other thing I would like to highlight, that for us, we really believe that, and especially for the humanitarian sector, where we see that a lot of single-use products is being used, we would really encourage the tender specifications to focus more on lifetime costs and lifetime emissions more than unit cost.
Thank you. So many really great points. How about you, Lorena? Do you have any concrete examples that could help us understand the challenges?
Yes, and just building on what Vegard was saying, the closest and most recent example I can give was a local tender process that I was working on last week, and I hadn't seen this in a very long time. This was like the local office of one of the UN organizations that we actually have an agreement with. And in the specs, the evaluation criteria was focusing exclusively on the lowest price. And I hadn't seen this in a really long time. And I had been seeing value for money, which is just another way of like, you know, focusing on like the lowest. But this one was straight away lowest price, and sustainability and environmental aspects were not marked as a consideration in the evaluation criteria. And the specs, I've been trying to fight against these specs for as long as I've been working on Bright, because I think there's a lack of understanding in how the about how what this spec means. So for example, for us, we know that the battery in our products, because we're trying to make them as durable as possible, the first thing that will go out is the battery after 5 to 7 years, and that's measured in cycles, right? But in these specs, it tells us, okay, it needs to have a battery of 500 cycles, which in practical terms, it means it will last 1.5 years. So we're talking about 44,000 units of lamps that, a part of like other waste that we know that comes from those specs, we know that in 1.5 years, those lamps are going to end up in a landfill or they're going to be burned. And it's very frustrating because in parallel, we are working, and I'm going to answer someone on the chat asked about what are we doing with e-waste. So we've been collaborating with IOM, and we have a pilot now scaling project in Uganda, where we are trying to collect all of that e-waste from our solar lamps and repair them. And then what we've been trying to do is take lessons learned from those repairs that we're doing, seeing how the lamps are behaving after those 5 to 7 years after being in the field, and then making upgrades in our products so that they're more durable, they're more repairable, and we've even come up with a new product that goes beyond all of those things. So if I can repair lamps at a pace of, or not me, the wonderful technicians that are on the field, that are part of the host community and the refugee community, if they can repair lamps about 6,000 lamps in about a year, but you're going to be dumping 44,000 units in 1.5 years, then we're creating a really big problem. And it's what Vegard was mentioning there, and also what Deepak was touching into, like we do need money to invest in these innovations and R&D processes, which means that our products are going to be a bit more on the more expensive end of the spectrum, but we can guarantee that you're going to have a lamp for 5 to 7 years or even more. And then perhaps the only thing that you have to do is change a battery that we're trying to make easily accessible and or repairable in other different ways. But is this long versus short term versus long term? And yeah, so that's kind of the best example I can give at the moment.
Thank you. Now, how about you, Deepak? Does this resonate with you and the specifications that you see in the call for proposals that you can respond to now? Because as we know, for those of you who are not used to procurement, if a specification is in the call, if you don't fit that, you're not going to be able to sell your product, even if you can show in your proposal that it is indeed better. Specifications sort of lock the process. So Deepak, how about the specifications that you see in the call for proposals that are relevant for you?
So, well, we've been noticing this for the last 10, maybe 8 to 10 years, that all the RFPs and RFQs, etc., always specify that it should be made with virgin polyester, which is fossil-based. So the moment we offer our recycled solution, it's just put aside and not even considered. So that's what we've been. However, now, only since I would say the last 7-8 months, I would see that the entire humanitarian system is willing to start talking about greener blankets. So I wouldn't be an expert to talk about other products, but I could talk about our products, which belongs to the shelter category. So I'm seeing this only in the last 7-8 months. Are they thinking about initiating a conversation? So mind you, not yet laid down specification, not yet done, but they've just started having a conversation to discuss this further. Now, where we see mountains in front of us is that everybody asks that, have you done an LCA study? Have you done this? And you see, we don't get funding for all this. And for a small company like us, who's anyways battling to get business from humanitarian organizations, funding an expensive LCA study does not justify it. So the moment we say, sorry, guys, we don't have an LCA study, but we can present you with data which we've gathered from other studies that show the life cycle analysis of a recycled blanket, but that's not acceptable. They want a proper study. Now, these studies would be very expensive for us to fund. You know, we could contribute to the study to a certain extent, but not the entire study. So that's where we find a lot of challenges is in providing them LCA studies. We are willing to work with them to lay down specifications, you know, but still it's too early since they're only just starting conversations. They've not yet put the specifications down or not even considering to do trial procurement, small trials. So this is where we see challenges right now.
Thank you. And if we should move on to recommendations then for the sector, what would be your recommendations, Deepak, for the sector to allow the sector to buy greener solutions?
So, first of all, have easier access to the procurement staff. So right now, I mean, I would talk on base from the perspective of Asian suppliers. Most of the humanitarian organizations would be based in Europe. It's not easy for us to just sit in the car, drive 2 hours and get into their office. So most of the times we struggle with getting access to the right people. We don't know who's the right people. We are emailing the office, you know, a general info address or a general office address. And for years, you don't get response unless it's going to the right person. Now, who's the right person? We don't know. You try to find out, it's not easy. Secondly, even if you do manage to reach the procurement people, they don't understand sustainability. Well, not everybody, but a lot of them don't understand sustainability. And when you offer a sustainable solution, they don't immediately grasp onto that. So then usually the product is, oh no, why change the wheel when it's rolling already? You know, so that's the attitude we find many times, that they don't want to shift to a new product because everything is set for them already. They've got reliable suppliers who are meeting their quantity, price targets, everything. So why move to somebody new and worry about not meeting price targets, quantities, and on-time deliveries, etc. So we need to have people who are specially focused on sustainability within these humanitarian organizations, who may not necessarily be procurement people, but could be people who drive the procurement towards sustainability. They understand sustainability and can, you know, let's say today, I may say my product is sustainable, but according to the humanitarian organization, it's not sustainable. So let the sustainability officer decide this and then move it, if they feel right, to the correct procurement people. So that's something that is needed. Also, willingness to do trials in the field. We find many a times that if we say that let's do a trial, there's no harm in doing a small trial. We're not asking for your entire millions of dollars of business. We're asking, give a small trial of $5,000 or $10,000. It's not going to hurt anybody. You know, you can see the product, you can see it works in the field, and then you can go step by step. So these are some of the points I feel should help sustainable companies develop business with the humanitarian system.
Thank you. How about you, Vegard? Do these recommendations resonate with you, or what would your recommendations be to the sector?
No, indeed, I agree with a lot of what Deepak is saying here, and indeed for us as well, getting closer to the procurement teams is a key. The chance to come with ideas and proposals of new innovations, and not only what's been used in the past. I would like to come up with one example of recent tenders that we've been participating in with UNICEF actually, and it was solved as a request for proposal instead of what we often see for this kind of products, which is a request for bid or a request for quotation. And what that did was that they gave us the chance to, so they listed all of the specifications for the products they already have in their catalog, but it wasn't locked specifications. Some of the specifications they said this is something you have to have. The other things was things that is nice to have. But there was also possibilities to propose completely new products that's not matching any of the products in the existing catalog, and products with tenders where we can propose this is something that we believe you should be looking into including in the tender. So at least that is closer to a dialogue process where we as a supplier have the chance to present what we have been working on since last tender, and then of course it's up to in this case the UN, but the tenderer to decide whether that is something they believe is relevant or not for them. But at least that we have the chance to present the products and tools that we have been working on, because in our case at least, it is the humanitarian sector and it is the UN agencies that we develop products for in many cases. So it's important for us to have a chance to also present the new solutions that we have been working on for them. And the other recommendation from my side would be to as we spoke about earlier here, to focus on the lifetime cost and the life cycle emissions in the tender criteria, because we often see that it is price that is the main criteria, and then it is really difficult to sometimes compete, other times present the solutions you believe are the best solutions. In some cases, we also do have single-use products in our wider portfolio, and we don't like to quote them, but sometimes we have to if we want to be competitive. So in order for us to be able to provide our most sustainable products, most innovative products for the humanitarian sector, the selection criteria, the evaluation criteria is a key. Back to you, Therese.
Great, thank you. How about you, Lorena? What would be your recommendations to the sector?
I think definitely be more willing and open for dialogue, market dialogue, or in our case, what has been very useful is the innovation friendly procurement practices, because it kind of creates that space where we can all come together and discuss what the best solutions are. Our experiences from engaging with innovation friendly procurement have been in general very positive. So we've done this for the project that we have with IOM, and I feel like there's definitely been a big change, because again, we have the humanitarian organizations that have a mandate to protect those vulnerable populations. So very rightly so, sometimes they're going to be a bit skeptical towards the private sector, because again, it's this image that we're just trying to make money or we have ulterior motives, and very rightly so. We don't have the best track record, but I feel like things are changing, and there's a lot of us, we are present here, we're really trying to come with better solutions for people that need them, and through this innovation friendly procurement, we've been able to build that trust with the organization. Obviously, these are massive, really large animals, right? Like if I build a good relationship with headquarters, it doesn't mean that your office in Sudan has any idea of who we are or what we offer, but it's a process. So I think definitely creating those processes that are a bit more open, creating spaces like this one where we can all come together and talk and discuss about things is very useful. I think as well, just like building, for example, in the request for proposal, or even when you have a request for bid, or for quotation, leaving it a little bit more open so that we can justify why. So for example, in my case with the batteries, I will come and offer 2,500 cycles, and I will explain you why this is better than the 500 that you're asking me, right? Because I can tell you, well, this lasts longer. Sometimes it's something as simple as that. Other times it's a little bit more elaborated and I need to provide more data. But if you give me that space to show you why I'm doing this, or I'm getting out of your spec because I think this is better, I think that's a really great solution. And I think, again, at the end of the day, we're all wanting the same thing, hopefully, when we're working in this sector. So there's no point to like going head against head when we can actually just work on the same direction. So just those spaces, I think, are really, really important.
Thank you. All these challenges and recommendations are well noted, and I see there is a lot of activity in the chat. But before I open up for questions, I would just like to take you through this innovation-friendly procurement process that Lorena is referring to, and just show you that there are ways that we can address some of these challenges systematically in the sector, and some of these approaches have been tried before by organizations and can be scaled. And just to take us back to Claire's introduction and look a little bit at the figures here. And now, Claire, I think you said 65 or 70% of humanitarian organizations' expenditures are related to procurement activities. And this is indeed the case. And I think people that haven't looked into this are often a bit shocked by these figures, and to realize how important procurement is to reach the impact of all of our organizations and what we're trying to do. And if we compare figures that are available for 2022, the total international humanitarian assistance that was tracked by OCHA through the FTS showed an expenditure of $41.4 billion US, while total UN procurement, as registered by UNGM, shows a figure of $29.6 billion US. So if we procure right, our chances of making that transitional impact that Claire was talking about, and that Vegard and Lorena and Deepak are talking about when they show you their products that can enhance our impact, right? It shows the importance and why we need to look at procurement, and why all of us need to look at procurement, not just our procurement colleagues. Now, an innovation-friendly procurement is a procurement process that both opens up for innovation as well as safeguard against corruption. And I think it's this safeguarding against corruption that's so important for the humanitarian organizations that are striving to meet humanitarian needs while doing no harm. But it is possible to do both. And an innovation-friendly procurement process is indeed a process, and there are a few key elements that are different in this process than an ordinary procurement. First of all, it's important to do a thorough needs assessment, and humanitarian organizations are often really excellent at doing needs assessment. What is key to this kind of needs assessment is that you focus on the impact that you're trying to reach, not the input that you think you need. So you become an expert on the need and on the impact. And then you open up for a dialogue with various suppliers that can help you reach that impact. And as we've now heard all our 4 speakers talk about, this dialogue is really key. Without this dialogue, as a humanitarian staff, you're not able to keep updated on everything that's possible in new technological development, and it isn't your role. Your role is to understand the humanitarian context and the impact that you're trying to reach. And then by sharing that understanding, by sharing that needs assessment with the private sector, you educate them, if you will, about what your needs are, and you help them understand how they can develop the best solution that is available for you. I recently spoke to another colleague from the private sector, and he said, if we do not know where there is a problem, we cannot tell you what the solution might be. If we have a rough idea of the problem, we can propose something, and together we can have that dialogue. And often this dialogue today is particularly difficult between the technical experts, so those that thoroughly really understand the need, and the private sector that thoroughly really understands technology and possibilities within new development. So we need to be able to facilitate that dialogue in a transparent, open, and a way that supports the competition that we need in these call for proposals. And that's possible, but we need to introduce those systems of documenting this dialogue and making sure that all information is available to everybody. And there are legal systems in use in the public sector today that can help also humanitarian organizations do this. The other thing that we heard our private sector partners talk about today are the specifications, and how when something's locked into a specification, it really is decisive for what kind of solutions that you can procure. And there are different forms of specification, and I'll show you this diagram to help us understand this a little bit. It's a little bit complicated, but let me use a very sort of simplified example. As you can see, there are, in broad terms, 4 different types of specifications that we can use. And on one side, you have performance-based specifications. So specifications that focus on the impact and the performance that you're trying to reach. On the other side, you have really detailed specifications of what you'd like to procure. And for a procurement that's strategically important, where you want the best solution available to you, what you're looking for is a high level of competition so that you really get the best solution. You want your procurement to be related to as low risk as possible so that the solution really meets your needs. And you want the number of alternative solutions that you can consider that can help solve your challenge to be as high as possible. And as you can see in this diagram, all those criteria are met if you use performance-based specification. Now, as a simplified example, I'm a mother of 3 children, and for me, it's important that I have access to nutritious food that I can provide for my children. Now, I've heard as a mother that an apple a day makes the doctor go away, and so and I've always, ate a lot of red apples in my family, and I find it nutritious. So with my knowledge of, as a mother, of nutrition, I can then go and procure red apples. Now, if I go procure red apples, it's only providers of red apples that can propose their apples to me. I can buy these red apples, so that means that the level of competition is low, and the level of alternative solutions are really low. I can take these apples home, I can feed it to my 16-year-old growing boy, and I will find that this is not going to meet his nutritious needs. He's growing too fast, he needs other solutions. Now, instead of sort of keeping my procurement specifications locked to red apples and my understanding of nutrition, I can open it up and I can ask all suppliers of nutrition in my neighborhood, and I can say, I need nutritious food for my 16-year-old growing boy. And that opens up a whole other level of competition, right? It can be providers of beef or protein powder or milk, and it can be anybody. And it's up to them then to explain to me why this is the best fit for the nutritious needs of my 16-year-old growing boy. And that means that the alternative solutions that I can then consider for my son increases. It also means that the risk of this procurement lowers because I get that information and understanding of what provides good nutrition. So this is a very simplified example, but you can apply it to all the other needs that we have in the sector. Now, we're not arguing that all procurement should be innovation friendly, but the key strategic procurements should be innovation friendly also in the humanitarian sector. So for strategically important procurements connected to our core business, our core mandate, and the impact that we're trying to seek, we should keep our procurement open. Where there's little competition in the market, and you as a supplier you as a buyer can stimulate that market development. Now, we heard several of the private sector representatives here today say that to fit the calls and to keep their business going, their development, research and development going, they need to sell their products, right? So they have less green solutions available, less innovative, less effective solutions that might fit the specifications that a humanitarian humanitarian organization have put out, they can sell you those. But as a buyer, we should stimulate the development, right? We should stimulate that development of greener, better solutions, that competition that will help those greener, better solutions come at a price point that's available. And so when there's little competition in the market, by conducting this process of having a market dialogue, we can stimulate that development. And that was also referred to by some of our private sector partners here today. In markets that evolve quickly, we see a lot of really rapid development in some technologies these days. It's also important that we keep the procurement open, because as a humanitarian expert, you're not able to keep updated on all technology. The private sector partners, that's their job, to keep updated and evolve that development. So again, that's a good area to conduct an innovation-friendly procurement. And where the baseline is well known and there is potential for innovation, that's also, as a buyer, your role to stimulate that innovation. So these are areas where we can consider conducting an innovation-friendly procurement. And our sort of argument here today is that this is not just, if I can say it like that, a procurement challenge. It is an ecosystem challenge. The procurement here doesn't start at the point of publishing a tender. It starts at the point where you've identified a need and you're working on reaching that impact. And that is why it's important that all of us in this meeting, whether you represent a donor, you represent a research institute, you represent the private sector, you represent a humanitarian organization, or you represent a population affected by a crisis, this is important for all of us, and we need to work and collaborate together to make that change and make sure that we do buy, adopt, stimulate green solutions to humanitarian response. Public sector procurement is more than simply an operational function. It can be a powerful force for change, and that's how we need to look at it. And that starts, from donors having their reporting requirements. It starts from the KPIs that we've developed in our organizations. They need to reflect the importance of procurement and innovation and greening efforts. Because procurement, as we've discussed now, it stimulates development, it stimulates greener solution, or if done less strategically, it can actually stimulate the other way, right? It can stimulate the development of less green solutions. And how we procure then also is essential for the uptake and scale of greener solutions in our response. And one of the key stumbling blocks that we see in making that change that we're all talking about needing to happen. And we also need then more research to inform that change that we need to see happen, so that we can develop the good policies, the good KPIs, and the good procedures that can help us conduct this change. Thank you. So with that, I'd like to open up to the participants here today for any questions. And I know some of you posted and answered questions in the chat. I haven't been able to monitor it. So if you posted a question in the chat, please feel free to raise your hand and share your question with us. Paula, please, the word is yours.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your presentations. And yeah, very interesting discussion and I think very valid points that have been made. I guess I had 2 questions. So I wanted to understand if you had more information on how, when you are proposing an alternative or a more environmentally sustainable product, can you actually share facts in terms of how that has a lower impact versus an alternative that is not sustainable? And also, I was interested in knowing, and I think this is kind of linked to the e-waste project, but I wanted to know more about if you are already considering any circular economy principles in your own supply chain. Because of course, if you could also have a take back scheme, it would be interesting to know if that's available, and if you have examples of how it's worked as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. I'll give the word to you first, Vegard.
Yes, I would at least like to start answering the first question. So we conduct a lot of studies on all of the products that we develop. and we have solid evidence of the performance and lifetime expectancy, and we're happy to provide that evidence and documentation, and also to be commit and to be responsible for what we have in that documentation. So certainly when it comes to being able to document why a solution is sustainable, or the impact of that product, we can definitely provide good documentation of that in a manner that would be fairly easy for a tender to sort of compare with others. So that's definitely possible. When it comes to the second question, we don't have too much e-waste, but from our side, in the products that we do have, so for example, we have some medical devices requiring a battery, and in these cases, we are so a lot of our products are quite low cost by nature. So shipping it around the world is something we want to try to avoid. But what we're trying to do is to expand our servicing in the markets where we have the most products out. So if you, for example, have a device on the market which has been there for 4 years, it's working well, it just needs to replace the battery, that we have servicing schemes available where we take that unit back and we send a new unit with a replaced battery. So that's how we are working in Lerdahl Global Health with reducing e-waste. And maybe someone else also have. I can imagine Lorena also have some interesting thoughts around this.
Yes, Lorena, please go ahead.
Yeah, I can take it from here. Thank you for your questions, Paula. I think same. We also have data showing or to back up why our products are more sustainable. One of them is the life cycle assessments that Deepak was mentioning. But again, I want to also acknowledge their point that they're expensive. So that also means that we're doing a very big investment in collecting that data, hiring the right services to conduct those life cycle assessments, because we don't have that capacity internally. We don't have that expertise, so we need to outsource those types of studies, but they cost money. But in our case, yes, we can provide that specific data, and in this particular case, I can tell you what is the carbon footprint of each one of the lamps that you would be or that we would be providing. When it comes to the circular economy principles, we're looking into it. We're only starting to scratch the surface, if I'm very honest with you. One of the challenges that we have is that in our case, we don't know where our lamps end. So this is also part of how the procurement or working with these UN organizations, for example, works, that we would get a purchase order, and then this would go to somewhere in Dubai or Kenya where there's a warehouse, and then it will be provided or sent to other places. So I can, and that data is very difficult to get hold on to. Like we've tried for many years and it's very difficult. So we have a rough understanding or grasp of where our lamps are, but we don't know for sure. So that's the first part. The second one is access. So we would have to collaborate, or we have to collaborate with the organizations that are procuring our lamps, to gain access, to understand what are our options, what are the potential take-back schemes. Also, logistically, it's very, very challenging. What we're doing now, while we're trying to solve all of this, because we know that I think it's 99%, and it's Innovation Norway has a really good report on this. I think 99% of the e-waste is either buried or burned or disposed in ways that are not appropriate. What we're trying to do is focusing on the durability, so that the highest environmental impact that you can create is in the design phase, right? So we're really, really trying to invest in R&D so that the solutions are as durable as possible. So in a way, we're trying to buy as much time as possible and then make them repairable. So then once that's, the product is having some hiccups, you can repair it and then expand it. So I'm really hoping that we can start cracking and solving this problem with the whole take back and circularity, because it would be the best. And also for us as a company, we also see that that's where some of our emissions are coming from, right? Like the end of life and what happens at the end of life if they're just like burning them or like incinerating them. Or so we're really trying to work on it. I hope I can give you better answers in a few years.
Thank you, Lorena. Deepak, please, over to you.
Yes. So, Paula, like Lorena mentioned, they have a proper life cycle analysis study done. For our product, we do not have a complete professional study done, but we do have data, facts, and figures that have been studied by the international wool mark body, who've conducted various studies on recycled wool. So those are the data that we would present to the potential humanitarian organizations looking for some facts and figures. That's the kind of data we have to back up our claims of sustainability. And regarding the circular economy principle, we are already, our product is a closed loop product, as this is all made from used garments that were going to landfill. You know, typically in Europe, US, etc., you'll are throwing garments for recycling in the garment recycling bin, which is what we are collecting and then grading it, sorting, grading. So part of these garments we would convert into yarns and fabrics back for the fashion apparel industry. And part of this would be used to make blankets for the humanitarian system. So already you can say our product is a circular product. As far as taking back blankets from the humanitarian system and recycling that at present is not a possibility, because firstly, blankets are a very cheap item. And these blankets are being shipped to camps all over the world. And the conditions that they are used in, it's not feasible to take back and recycle, because they could be, full of, we don't know what kind of disease and infections. So, and plus our product being made from natural fibers is anyways biodegradable. So it's not possible to take back the blankets as of now, but it's already a circular product.
Great. Thank you so much. Our time is up, unfortunately, but I hope we'll all continue the conversation in our various channels of communication. And so I'd just like to say a huge thank you to our speakers today, to Claire, to Vega, to Lorena, and to Deepak for sharing your expertise with all of us. And let's continue this conversation and our joint efforts to greening humanitarian response. So thank you, everybody, and I wish you a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.